According to National Electrical Code Section 760.56d, fire alarm power limited cables cannot be installed in the same conduit as audio system circuits. This prohibition exists because of the potential damage to fire alarm systems in the event of a short circuit. The properties of audio circuits can significantly damage fire alarm systems, especially their delicate circuitry, in such an event. Reclassifying fire alarm cable as Class 1 circuits does not resolve the issue. The separation requirement specified in National Electrical Code Section 760.56d applies to all power-limited fire alarm circuits, irrespective of their classification. Therefore, even if the fire alarm cable is reclassified, the requirement to separate the cables remains in effect. There are no National Electrical Code compliant methods to combine fire alarm and mass notification system cables in the same conduit. To comply with the National Electrical Code, separate conduits must be used for each system. This ensures the integrity and reliability of both the fire alarm and mass notification systems, particularly in the event of an emergency. The requirement to separate cables is based on the potential for the audio system's high current and voltage to damage the fire alarm system's sensitive circuitry. The National Fire Protection Association Handbook correctly states that audio circuits can significantly damage fire alarm systems if a short circuit occurs. The fact that both systems require communication industrial cable in the specifications does not override the National Electrical Code separation requirement. Running fire alarm and mass notification system cables in separate conduits ensures the integrity and reliability of both systems, especially in the event of an emergency. When installing fire alarm and mass notification systems, several factors must be considered to ensure compliance with the National Electrical Code and maintain the safety and reliability of both systems. These considerations include cable types, conduit requirements, separation requirements, and power limitations. Firstly, cable types. Fire alarm systems typically use fire alarm power limited cables, often referred to as FBL cable or communication industrial cable. These cables are designed to have specific fire resistance and low smoke characteristics. Mass notification systems, which often include audio components, may use different types of cables suitable for audio signals, such as shielded or unshielded communication cables. Secondly, conduit requirements. The National Electrical Code often requires that fire alarm and mass notification system cables be installed in conduit, especially in commercial and industrial buildings. Conduit provides physical protection for the cables and helps to prevent damage from external factors such as impact, moisture, and rodents. Common types of conduit include electrical metallic tubing, also known as EMT, rigid metal conduit, also known as RMC, and electrical non-metallic tubing, also known as ENT. Thirdly, separation requirements. As previously mentioned, the National Electrical Code Section 760.56d prohibits the installation of fire alarm power limited cables in the same conduit as audio system circuits. This separation requirement is intended to prevent the potential for electrical interference and damage between the two systems. Audio circuits, which may carry higher voltages and currents, can induce voltage spikes or other electrical disturbances in the fire alarm circuits, potentially causing false alarms or system malfunctions. Fourthly, power limitations. Fire alarm systems often operate on power-limited circuits, which are designed to limit the amount of current and voltage available to the system components. This helps to reduce the risk of electrical shock and fire hazards. Mass notification systems, on the other hand, may operate on non-power limited circuits, which can carry higher levels of current and voltage. When installing fire alarm and mass notification systems, it is essential to follow the National Electrical Code guidelines for power limitations to ensure the safety of both systems. Given these considerations, it is clear that combining fire alarm and mass notification system cables in the same conduit is generally not permitted by the National Electrical Code. The separation requirement outlined in Section 760.56d is intended to protect the integrity and reliability of both systems and to prevent potential hazards. To comply with the National Electrical Code, separate conduits must be used for each system. This ensures that the fire alarm system can operate reliably in the event of an emergency and that the mass notification system can effectively communicate critical information to building occupants. In situations where it may be desirable to combine fire alarm and mass notification system cables, it is essential to consult with a qualified electrical engineer or inspector to determine if there are any alternative solutions that would comply with the National Electrical Code. For example, it may be possible to use specially designed cables or raceway systems that provide adequate separation and protection between the two systems. However, these solutions must be carefully evaluated to ensure that they meet all applicable code requirements and that they do not compromise the safety or reliability of either system. In addition to the National Electrical Code, it is also important to consider any local codes or regulations that may apply to the installation of fire alarm and mass notification systems. Local codes may have additional requirements or restrictions that must be followed. It is always best to consult with local authorities to ensure that the installation meets all applicable code requirements. Furthermore, it is important to ensure that the fire alarm and mass notification systems are properly designed, installed, and maintained. Regular inspections and testing should be performed to verify that the systems are operating correctly and that they are capable of performing their intended functions. Any deficiencies or malfunctions should be promptly addressed to prevent potential hazards and to ensure the continued reliability of the systems. In summary, combining fire alarm and mass notification system cables in the same conduit is generally not permitted by the National Electrical Code due to the potential for electrical interference and damage between the two systems. To comply with the National Electrical Code, separate conduits must be used for each system. It is essential to consult with a qualified electrical engineer or inspector and to follow all applicable codes and regulations to ensure the safety and reliability of both systems. Additionally, regular inspections and testing should be performed to verify that the systems are operating correctly and that they are capable of performing their intended functions. By following these guidelines, it is possible to install fire alarm and mass notification systems that are safe, reliable, and compliant with all applicable code requirements. For further clarification, let's delve into the specific requirements of the National Electrical Code, particularly Article 760, which covers fire alarm systems. This article provides detailed guidelines on the installation of fire alarm circuits and equipment, including wiring methods, power sources, and overcurrent protection. Section 760.56 specifically addresses the separation of fire alarm circuits from other circuits, including audio system circuits. This section states that fire alarm power limited cables shall not be installed in the same raceway cable or enclosure as other non-fire alarm circuits unless they are separated by a barrier or partition. The purpose of this requirement is to prevent electrical interference and to ensure that the fire alarm system can operate reliably in the event of a fault or short circuit in another circuit. In addition to Section 760.56, other sections of Article 760 may also be relevant to the installation of fire alarm and mass notification systems. For example, Section 760.41 covers the power sources for fire alarm systems, which must be reliable and capable of providing sufficient power to operate all system components. Section 760.45 covers the overcurrent protection of fire alarm circuits, which must be sized and installed to protect against overloads and short circuits. It is important to carefully review all applicable sections of Article 760 to ensure that the fire alarm system is installed in accordance with the National Electrical Code. Turning our attention to mass notification systems, these systems are typically covered by Article 700 of the National Electrical Code, which addresses emergency systems. Mass notification systems are often considered emergency systems because they are designed to provide critical information to building occupants in the event of an emergency. Article 700 provides guidelines on the installation of emergency systems, including wiring methods, power sources, and overcurrent protection. Section 700.9 specifically addresses the wiring of emergency systems, which must be kept entirely independent of all other wiring and equipment, unless otherwise permitted by the National Electrical Code. This requirement is similar to the separation requirement for fire alarm systems and is intended to ensure that the emergency system can operate reliably in the event of a fault or short circuit in another circuit. In addition to Article 700, other articles of the National Electrical Code may also be relevant to the installation of mass notification systems. For example, Article 640 covers audio signal processing, amplification, and reproduction equipment, which may be used in mass notification systems. Article 725 covers Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 remote control, signaling, and power-limited circuits, which may also be used in mass notification systems. It is important to carefully review all applicable articles of the National Electrical Code to ensure that the mass notification system is installed in accordance with the code. Furthermore, it is important to consider the specific requirements of the mass notification system itself. Mass notification systems may include a variety of components such as speakers, amplifiers, control panels, and communication interfaces. Each of these components may have its own specific installation requirements that must be followed. For example, speakers must be mounted securely and positioned to provide adequate coverage of the intended area. Amplifiers must be sized and installed to provide sufficient power to drive the speakers. Control panels must be programmed and configured to operate the system correctly. Communication interfaces must be connected to the appropriate communication networks. It is important to carefully review the manufacturer's instructions for each component of the mass notification system to ensure that it is installed correctly. In addition to the technical requirements of the National Electrical Code, it is also important to consider the human factors aspects of mass notification systems. Mass notification systems are designed to communicate critical information to building occupants in the event of an emergency. Therefore, it is important to ensure that the messages are clear, concise, and easy to understand. The messages should also be delivered in a timely manner so that building occupants have sufficient time to take appropriate action. Furthermore, it is important to consider the needs of individuals with disabilities. Mass notification systems should be designed to provide information to individuals with hearing impairments, visual impairments, and other disabilities. This may include providing visual displays, tactile alerts, and other alternative communication methods. It is important to work with building owners, managers, and occupants to develop a comprehensive mass notification plan that addresses the specific needs of the building and its occupants. In conclusion, the installation of fire alarm and mass notification systems is a complex undertaking that requires careful attention to detail and a thorough understanding of the National Electrical Code. It is important to consult with qualified professionals and to follow all applicable codes and regulations to ensure that the systems are installed safely and reliably. By following these guidelines, it is possible to install fire alarm and mass notification systems that will protect building occupants and provide them with the information they need to respond effectively to emergencies. One more key area to consider is the selection of appropriate cable types for both fire alarm and mass notification systems. The National Electrical Code specifies different cable types for different applications based on their fire resistance, smoke characteristics, and other performance characteristics. For fire alarm systems, fire alarm power limited cable, known as FPL cable, is typically required. FPL cable is designed to have specific fire resistance and low smoke characteristics, which are essential for fire safety. FPL cable is available in both shielded and unshielded versions, depending on the specific application. For mass notification systems, the cable type may vary depending on the specific requirements of the system. If the mass notification system includes audio components, shielded cable may be required to reduce electrical noise and interference. If the mass notification system is installed in a hazardous location, cable that is suitable for use in hazardous locations may be required. It is important to carefully review the National Electrical Code and the manufacturer's instructions to determine the appropriate cable type for each application. In addition to the cable type, the cable size must also be considered. A cable size must be sufficient to carry the required current and voltage for the system. The National Electrical Code provides tables that specify the allowable ampacity of different cable sizes based on their insulation type and installation method. It is important to select a cable size that is large enough to handle the maximum current and voltage that the system will draw. Furthermore, the cable installation method must be considered. The National Electrical Code specifies different installation methods for different cable types and applications. The installation method must be appropriate for the cable type and the environment in which the cable is installed. For example, cables that are installed in conduit must be installed in accordance with the requirements of Article 300 of the National Electrical Code. Cables that are installed in cable trays must be installed in accordance with the requirements of Article 392 of the National Electrical Code. It is important to carefully review the National Electrical Code to determine the appropriate installation method for each cable. Another important consideration is the grounding of the fire alarm and mass notification systems. Grounding is essential for electrical safety and helps to prevent electrical shock hazards. The National Electrical Code provides detailed guidelines on grounding requirements for electrical systems. Fire alarm and mass notification systems must be grounded in accordance with the requirements of Article 250 of the National Electrical Code. The grounding system must be designed and installed to provide a low impedance path to ground, which helps to protect against electrical shock hazards. In addition to the grounding system, surge protection may also be required. Surge protection helps to protect electrical equipment from damage caused by voltage surges. Voltage surges can be caused by lightning strikes, power grid switching, and other events. Fire alarm and mass notification systems are particularly vulnerable to voltage surges because they often contain sensitive electronic components. Surge protection devices, known as SPD, should be installed to protect the fire alarm and mass notification systems from voltage surges. The SPD should be installed at the service entrance and at other critical locations throughout the system. It is important to select SPD that are appropriate for the voltage and current levels of the system. Furthermore, the SPD must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. As technology evolves, wireless fire alarm and mass notification systems are becoming increasingly common. Wireless systems offer several advantages over traditional wired systems, including lower installation costs, increased flexibility, and improved aesthetics. However, wireless systems also present some unique challenges. One of the key challenges is ensuring the reliability of the wireless communication link. Wireless communication links can be affected by interference, signal blockage, and other factors. It is important to select wireless equipment that is designed to operate reliably in the specific environment in which it will be installed. Furthermore, the wireless system must be properly configured and maintained to ensure its continued reliability. Another challenge is ensuring the security of the wireless communication link. Wireless communication links can be vulnerable to hacking and other security threats. It is important to select wireless equipment that incorporates security features such as encryption and authentication. Furthermore, the wireless system must be properly configured and maintained to protect against security threats. The National Electrical Code does not specifically address wireless fire alarm and mass notification systems. However, the general requirements of the National Electrical Code still apply to wireless systems. For example, the wireless equipment must be listed and labeled for its intended use. The wireless system must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. The wireless system must be grounded in accordance with the requirements of Article 250 of the National Electrical Code. It is important to consult with a qualified electrical engineer or inspector to ensure that the wireless fire alarm and mass notification system complies with all applicable code requirements.